It's strange how the night feels louder when I think of you. The rain outside is barely a whisper, but in here it becomes the only thing I hear. It's as if the world has gone quiet just to let my heart speak. I am sitting by the window in the same chair that has known all my restless nights, looking out at the streetlight across the road. Its glow is soft, the kind that blurs at the edges, like the way your face fades in my memory, yet never disappears. I keep wondering if you feel it too, this invisible thread that still ties me to you, pulling me back into moments I thought I had left behind. You were never just a passing season in my life. You were the calendar itself, the way I marked time. The days before you were gray and shapeless, and the days after have been heavy with shadows. You were not a chapter that I could close with a sigh and move on. You were the book I held close to my chest, the one I read until the pages wore thin, the one I memorized without even trying. And yet, somehow, I lost it. Or maybe it was taken from me. Or maybe you walked away with it in your hands, and I never had the courage to ask for it back. There are nights when I still feel your presence in the smallest ways. The faint smell of rain on concrete, the hum of an old refrigerator, the way the floorboards creak under my feet. It all takes me back. I see us in that tiny kitchen. You making coffee you swore was too bitter, but always drank anyway. I hear your laugh echoing in a room that now only knows silence. I can't remember the exact color of your eyes anymore, but I remember how they looked at me like I was a song you knew by heart. And I remember thinking, foolishly, that this was forever. People like to tell stories about love as if it's a neat collection of beginnings and endings. They call it chapters. They say you turn the page and a new story begins. But that's not how it feels when it's you. When I think of you, I don't see chapters. I see the whole binding, the ink, the paper that held my life together. You were the spine that kept me from falling apart. And now that you're gone, every page feels loose, fluttering in the wind, without a place to belong. I try to imagine what it would be like if you were just a chapter. If I could place you neatly between two covers, close it, put it on a shelf, and let dust settle over it. Maybe then I could walk into another story without tripping over your name. But you don't stay in one place. You seep into the margins of everything. The song playing in a cafe. The way someone stands in line at the grocery store, holding their keys the way you used to. The scent of laundry dried in cold air. You are everywhere, and nowhere I can touch. Sometimes I think you must have taken parts of me with you, not in a dramatic, tragic way, but in the quiet, unnoticed way someone leaves wearing your favorite sweater. You walked out carrying my laughter, my softness, my trust in the idea that love could be safe. And what you left behind is a version of me that stares at ceilings too long and avoids certain streets. I wonder if you ever think about that, if you ever feel the weight of the pieces you still hold. The world outside is soaked tonight. The glass is fogging from my breath as I write this, and I can almost see your reflection where mine should be. I used to imagine what it would be like to run into you again. Not in a dramatic, movie-like way, but something quiet. Passing each other on a sidewalk, meeting eyes for a second too long, maybe even smiling in that polite way strangers do. I don't know if I'd say your name. I don't know if you'd say mine. But I do know that something in my chest would ache the same way it does now, because there are some stories that do not fade, even when the ink runs. I think about the things I never told you, how I noticed the way your hands trembled when you were tired, how I loved the sound of your voice most when it was just above a whisper, how I counted the freckles on your shoulder like they were constellations meant only for me to read. I thought I had time to tell you all of it. I thought we had more pages ahead. But one day, without warning, the book closed in my hands, and I have been trying to open it ever since. But the words have vanished, as if they were never mine to begin with. There is a quiet cruelty in the way memories work. They do not play in order. They arrive like rain through a cracked window, sudden and cold, catching you off guard. I'll be folding laundry or rinsing a cup, and suddenly I'm standing in that autumn park with you, leaves tangled in your hair, both of us laughing for no reason at all. The scene is so vivid, I can almost feel the air, smell the damp earth, hear the rustle under our shoes, and then it's gone, leaving me with the sound of my own breathing and the echo of something I can't hold. Maybe this is why I can't call you a chapter. Chapters have endings that make sense. They have closure, resolution, a turning point. You are none of those things. You are 1,000 beginnings and no ending at all. You were the only book I ever wanted to read, and now I am stuck on the last page, the words blurring because I've read them too many times. People tell me to move on, to write new stories, but they don't understand. Without you, I am writing on loose sheets that don't belong to any book. The streetlight outside flickers now, like it's agreeing with me. The rain is softer, the night quieter, and I am still here, holding on to something I cannot name without breaking. You were never just a chapter. You were the book. And maybe I will spend the rest of my life reading the ghost of your words, hoping one day they will lead me back to you. I walked past the old bookstore today. I didn't mean to. My feet just carried me there, as if some hidden compass still points to all the places you once touched. The front display has changed, of course, but the smell is still the same. Paper and dust and something faintly sweet, like the breath of old wood. I stood outside for a moment, watching the door open and close. Strangers walking in with that quiet anticipation of finding something that belongs to them. I remember how you loved that place, how you could spend hours inside without speaking, tracing the spines of books like you were reading them through your fingertips. I remember sitting on the floor between two shelves, watching you from across the aisle, and thinking that if I could stay in that moment forever, I would. That's the thing about you, about us. The memories are not grand, not wrapped in fireworks or sweeping gestures. They live in the smallest details. The chipped mug you used for tea, the way your shoes always squeaked on rainy days, the way you tilted your head when you listened, as if you were catching not just the words, but the spaces between them. It's these tiny things that haunt me, because they sneak into the present without warning. I'll see someone in a crowd adjust their scarf the way you did, or hear the creak of a chair that sounds like the one in your kitchen, and suddenly I'm pulled under, gasping for air in a sea of memory. Sometimes I wonder if you knew how much space you took up inside me, if you knew that my days shaped themselves around your presence, even when we weren't together. I carried you like an unwritten sentence, something that lived in the back of my mind, ready to be spoken at any moment. And now, without you, there's a silence that doesn't belong to any sound. It's an emptiness that feels alive, as if it waits for you to return and fill it. People talk about grief like it's a wave, something that comes and goes. But with you, it's more like the tide, always there, just changing shape. Some days it's calm, a quiet pull in the background. Other days it rises high enough to swallow me whole. There is no warning, no pattern. And maybe that's because you weren't just someone I loved. You were the place I called home. Losing you wasn't a single moment. It's something that keeps happening over and over every time I reach for you in the dark and remember you're not there. I still keep the letter you never answered. It's in the bottom drawer of my desk, folded neatly, the ink faded in places from where my hands lingered too long. I never decided if I wanted you to read it or if I just needed to write it for myself. In it, I told you things I couldn't say out loud, that I missed the way you breathed when you slept, that I would have followed you anywhere, that I didn't know how to exist in a world where you weren't mine. Maybe that was too much. Maybe it was never meant to reach you. But it's there, and sometimes I unfold it just to see my own words. Proof that once I was brave enough to love you without hiding. The night air is cold now, and I've lit a single candle on the table. Its flame dances in the quiet, throwing soft light against the walls, making the room feel smaller, safer. I used to love this kind of light when you were here. We would sit close, knees touching, saying nothing, the warmth between us more than enough. Now, the light feels different. It doesn't fall on your face, doesn't catch the glint in your eyes. It only reminds me of the space you've left. Do you ever think about the last time we saw each other? I replay it often, not because I want to, but because my mind insists on circling back. I remember the way you stood, hands in your pockets, like you didn't know what to do with them. I remember the look in your eyes, not anger, not sadness, but something heavier, like resignation. And I remember thinking in that exact moment that nothing would be the same again. I tried to memorize every detail, the sound of passing cars, the smell of rain on the air, the way the wind moved your hair, because some part of me knew I would never have you in front of me like that again. Since then, I've walked through so many days, carrying the echo of that moment. I've laughed at jokes I didn't hear, stood in rooms filled with people, and felt alone, woken up in the middle of the night with your name on my lips. The world has kept turning, but I feel like I've been standing still, holding onto a book with pages missing, hoping the ending will somehow appear if I wait long enough. There's a song I can't listen to anymore. You played it once, on a lazy Sunday morning, your voice humming softly along with the melody. I didn't think much of it then. It was just another moment in the long stretch of days we shared. But now, the first few notes are enough to undo me. I hear it, and I'm back in that room. Sunlight spilling through the blinds, you leaning against the doorway with that half smile that meant you were happy. I wish I had known then how rare that smile would become in my memory. I wonder if you kept anything of mine. A book, a sweater, a note, something that still holds a trace of me. I wonder if you ever come across it and pause, if you let yourself remember, or if you've learned how to fold those memories neatly away. tucking them into some quiet corner of your mind where they can't hurt you anymore. I haven't learned that. I don't know if I ever will. Tonight, as I write this, the candle is almost gone. The wax has pooled at the bottom, the flame small and unsteady. I think of how we burned, how bright, how warm, and how quickly it all disappeared. People will tell me it was just a chapter, a part of my story, something to learn from and move past. But they're wrong. You were the book. Every word, every page, every heartbeat between the lines. And without you, I'm left with blank paper that refuses to catch ink. If you could read these words, I don't know what you would feel. Maybe nothing, maybe too much. But they are all I have left to give you. These pieces of me that still belong to you, no matter how much time has passed. I keep writing them, not to bring you back, but because I don't know how to stop. Because even now, you're not just part of my story. You are the story. I found myself walking by the river this afternoon. The air was crisp, the kind that stings your cheeks but clears your mind. The water moved slowly, carrying bits of fallen leaves that swirled and sank without resistance. I stood there for a long time, watching the current take them away. And I thought of you, how we once sat on that same stone ledge, knees drawn close, passing a paper cup of coffee between us. You laughed when I spilled some on my glove, and without a word, you took my hands in yours, warming them the way you always did, gently, as if they might break. I didn't realize it then, but that was one of the moments I would keep replaying in my head, long after the sound of your voice had faded. It's strange how certain memories take root so deeply that even time cannot touch them. They stay exactly as they were, untouched by the years, refusing to dim. When I close my eyes, I can still feel the heat of your palms, the way the river murmured behind us, the way the sky was beginning to bruise with evening. People say that with enough distance, you start to forget the details. But with you, it's the opposite. The details sharpen, as if my mind is afraid to let them slip away. I remember the way you tilted your head when you were thinking, the exact rhythm of your footsteps on cobblestone streets, the tiny pause in your breathing when you were about to say something important. I carry those pieces of you like treasures, even though they cut me when I hold them too tightly. Sometimes I think the reason I can't move on is because the world still speaks to me in your language. The sky turns that soft gold you loved just before sunset, and it feels like a sentence you once whispered. A stray cat curls up on the bench outside the cafe we used to visit, and it's as if you left it there for me to find. Even the wind feels like your voice some nights, brushing past my ear as though it wants to tell me something I'm not ready to hear. There are days when I almost convince myself you were a dream, that our time together was something I made up to fill the loneliness. But then I remember the way you held me during that storm, both of us pressed against the window, watching lightning split the sky. I remember the weight of your chin resting on the top of my head, the quiet hum you made without realizing. And I know dreams don't leave marks like that. They don't echo in your bones. I've tried to write about you before, not like this, not as a letter, but as something I could share with others. But every time I tried, the words felt wrong, too small for what we were, too clumsy to hold the way you shaped me. You weren't a story I could tell without losing something in the translation. And maybe That's why I keep writing only to you. Because you're the only one who would understand the weight behind the words. Tonight, the rain has returned. It taps against the window in a steady rhythm, like it's keeping time with my heart. I've made tea, but it's gone cold beside me, untouched. My mind is elsewhere, wandering the streets we walked, lingering in the rooms we filled. I see us lying on the floor of your apartment, watching the ceiling fan spin lazily while the afternoon light stretched across the walls. I hear the faint sound of music from your neighbor's radio, the smell of fresh bread from the bakery downstairs drifting in through the open window. We didn't speak much that day, but I remember feeling more understood in your silence than I have in anyone else's words. If you were just a chapter, maybe I could close this book and set it aside. But you weren't. You were the binding, the pages, the very ink that gave meaning to my days. You were the weight in my hands, the comfort of something familiar, the thrill of something I couldn't put down. And now, without you, I'm left holding an empty cover, the story gone, the pages blank. I wonder if you knew, when you left, what you were taking with you. Not just my laughter, but the part of me that believed in the safety of love. Not just my trust, but the version of myself that existed only when you were near. I feel the absence of that person every day. I catch glimpses of them in old photographs, in the way I used to smile without hesitation, in the lightness in my eyes. They are gone now, and I'm not sure they can return without you. The truth is, I don't want another book. I don't want new pages or fresh beginnings. I want the one we had, even if it ended in the middle of a sentence. I want to read it again, to live in those words until they're worn thin, until I can finally understand how something so full could vanish so completely. As I write this, the candle I lit earlier has burned low, the wax spilling over the sides, hardened in waves. The shadows in the room have grown taller, stretching toward me like they want to pull me under. And I let them, because in the dark, I can almost believe you're still here, that if I turn my head quickly enough, I'll catch you standing by the doorway, watching me with that quiet intensity I could never name. You were never just a chapter. You were the book. And though I keep telling myself that someday I'll learn to read something else, deep down I know the truth. I will always be searching for you between the lines of every story I try to tell. This morning, I woke up before the sun. The sky outside was still the color of deep water, the streets empty, the world holding its breath. I made coffee without turning on the lights, letting the dim glow from the window guide my hands. The steam curled into the air, carrying with it a scent that felt like a memory I couldn't quite place, until I realized it was the same brand you used to buy. I didn't mean to choose it. I wasn't even thinking about you when I grabbed it from the shelf last week. But maybe that's how it works now. You're stitched into the smallest decisions, the unnoticed habits, the background hum of my days. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands wrapped around the mug, and for a moment it was as if nothing had changed, as if you would walk in any second, hair still damp from the shower, eyes half closed, murmuring something about the cold. I could almost hear the way your voice would rise slightly when you were still waking up. But the chair across from me stayed empty, the only sound the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. It's strange how absence can feel heavier than presence. When you were here, the space you filled was effortless. You fit into my life the way light fits into a room, without force, without announcement. Now that you're gone, the emptiness takes effort to carry. It follows me through every room, settles beside me at night, sits quietly at the edge of every conversation. Later, I went out to run errands, just the ordinary things: groceries, laundry, stopping by the post office. And yet, you were everywhere. In the reflection of a store window, I caught sight of a scarf the same shade of green you loved. In the market, someone laughed in a way that made me turn my head, my chest tightening before I remembered it couldn't be you. Even at the crosswalk, the wind shifted and brought with it the scent of wood smoke, and I was suddenly back in that winter evening when we walked home through the snow. Your arm looped through mine, both of us pretending not to notice how our faces ached from smiling. There's no warning when the past decides to slip into the present. It's like walking into a room you think you know, only to find a window open, the curtains moving, the air different. I try to stay anchored, to keep my feet in the now, but then a fragment of you appears, a gesture, a song, a shadow in the corner of my mind, and I'm gone again. Sometimes I let it happen. Sometimes I close my eyes and lean into it, because there's a strange comfort in revisiting the places we've been, even if they only exist in my memory now. I can see us sitting on the edge of the pier in late summer, our legs dangling over the water, the sun bleeding into the horizon. You were telling me a story, something about your childhood, and I remember watching your lips move, barely hearing the words, because I was so focused on the way your face caught the last light of the day. That image has stayed with me like a photograph I never took. I don't know if it's healthy to hold on like this. People say that time will soften the edges, that the sharpness will fade, that one day I'll look back and smile instead of ache. But they don't know what it's like when someone isn't just part of your life, but the map of it. You weren't a place I visited. You were the entire country I lived in. And now I'm wandering without borders, without signs, without the language that once made sense to me. Tonight, I lit the lamp in the living room, the one with the warm amber shade. The room filled with that golden glow we both loved, the kind that makes everything look softer, almost forgiving. I curled up in the corner of the couch, a blanket over my knees, and tried to read. But the words blurred after a few pages, not because I was tired, but because my mind was already somewhere else, sitting across from you in your old apartment. The same light wrapping around us, your hand resting absent-mindedly on the arm of the chair. I remember the rhythm of your breathing, how it seemed to sync with mine without effort. I've come to realize that this is what love leaves behind. Not just the big moments, but 1,000 little imprints scattered through the days. They live in the way I pour my tea, in the routes I take home, in the songs I skip on the radio, because they belong to you. They live in my handwriting when I write late at night, in the way I pause before locking the door, listening for something that isn't there. Sometimes I think about what I would say to you if we met again, not in the way I used to imagine, with rehearsed lines or questions, just in the truth of the moment. I think I would tell you that I've been carrying you like a secret, that I haven't let go because I don't know who I am without this weight. I think I would tell you that you were never just a chapter, because chapters end, and I can't find the end of you in me. The night is quiet now, the streets outside washed clean by the rain. My reflection in the window looks like someone else, someone older, someone who has learned to live with an ache that never really leaves. And maybe that's the point, not to erase you, but to make room for you in the life that's left. Not as a wound, not as a shadow, but as the book that shaped me, even if I never get to read it again. You were never just a chapter. You were the book. And some nights, like this one, I still find myself tracing your name on the glass, watching it fade with my breath, wondering if somewhere, anywhere, you're thinking of me too. I keep telling myself that one day I will stop writing to you, that there will come a night when I sit down at this table, pen in hand, and realize there is nothing left to say. I imagine it would feel like finally stepping out of a heavy coat I've worn for too long, letting the air touch skin that has only known weight. But every time I think I'm close, I find myself reaching for you again. Your shadow, your voice, the way you once made my name sound like it belonged to me. There's a part of me that is tired, tired of carrying this story alone, tired of waking up with your absence pressed against me like a second skin. And yet, another part clings to it fiercely, because letting go feels too much like losing you all over again. What if the day I stop thinking of you is the day your face starts to fade? What if moving on means erasing the only proof that we existed at all? It's a strange kind of prison, wanting freedom but fearing the open door. I imagine walking through it, leaving you behind, and instead of feeling light, I feel hollow, as if the very thing that's been weighing me down is also the thing that's been keeping me whole. I tried something different this week. I went to the cafe where we used to spend Sunday mornings, the one with the old wooden tables and the crooked picture frames on the wall. It felt wrong at first, stepping inside without you. The place smelled exactly the same: fresh coffee, warm pastries, and a hint of cinnamon from the tea they brew in the back. I ordered what we used to share, not because I wanted it, but because I needed to know if it still tasted the same. It did, but it also didn't. Without you across from me, stirring sugar into your cup with that absent-minded rhythm, it was just coffee. Just another cup in a city full of them. I sat by the window in our old spot and watched the street. People passed by in pairs, in small groups, some alone. I wondered if anyone could see it, the way I was holding a ghost in my hands, sipping it slowly, afraid to finish. The table felt bigger without your elbows resting on it. The light seemed colder without your laugh to warm it. I stayed longer than I meant to, maybe hoping the door would open and you'd walk in, surprised to see me there. But of course, you didn't. On the way home, I passed the park where we once lay on the grass in late spring. Our shoes kicked off, the sun pressing heat into our shoulders. You were reading aloud from a book you loved, your voice slow and steady, the pages fluttering in the breeze. I remember the way you would glance at me between sentences, as if to check if I was still listening. I was. I always was. I think I could have listened to you forever. These memories come like waves, some gentle, some sharp. There are moments when they feel like gifts, small treasures I can take out and hold when the world feels too empty. And then there are moments when they crush me, reminding me of everything I can't touch, can't fix, can't bring back. I live between those two tides, never sure which will come next. At night, the apartment feels quieter than it should. I leave the lamp on in the hallway, not because I'm afraid of the dark, but because the light makes it easier to imagine you're just in another room. I pretend sometimes, letting myself believe you're there, flipping through a book, humming softly, waiting for me to join you. It's a fragile comfort, one that disappears the moment I stand up and see the empty space where you should be. I've started noticing the way time bends around this grief. Days pass quickly when I'm busy, but the nights stretch endlessly, each minute heavy and deliberate. There are hours where I swear the clock has stopped, as if it's holding me here on purpose, making me face the truth I keep trying to outrun. I fill the silence with music sometimes, but even that is dangerous. Too many songs carry pieces of you, and the wrong melody can undo me completely. People say you heal by making new memories, by letting fresh experiences take the place of old ones. I've tried. I've met new people, visited new places, even let myself laugh without guilt. But it's never the same. The laughter feels lighter, thinner, like paper compared to the weight of stone. It makes me realize that I'm not looking for something new. I'm still searching for you in every corner, every face, every sound. And when I don't find you, the emptiness grows. I wonder sometimes if you've learned to forget me, if my voice still echoes in your mind, the way yours does in mine. If there's a scent, a sound, a slant of light that pulls you back to me without warning. Or if you've found a way to close the book entirely, setting it down on some faraway shelf where it can't reach you anymore. I don't know which thought hurts more, that you remember or that you don't. Tonight, the rain has stopped, but the air still carries that damp chill. I've opened the window a little, letting the breeze in. It smells like earth, like the beginning of something. But I can't feel it the way I should, because every ending for me still circles back to you. Every new page feels like it belongs to the same story we started and never finished. You were never just a chapter. You were the book. And maybe the reason I can't move forward is because I never learned how to read without you. I'm still here, sitting in the middle of our story, waiting for the next line to appear. I think I've always known I was holding on too tightly, the way someone cups water in their hands, knowing it will slip through their fingers, but refusing to let go all the same. I keep you here, in the quiet corners of my mind, in the folds of my days, as if keeping you close might somehow rewrite the ending. But the truth is, I'm not keeping you alive. I'm keeping myself inside the past. It's strange because I tell myself I want to heal. I say the words out loud sometimes, just to hear how they sound. But healing would mean stepping away from you, from us. And I'm not sure I know how to walk without this shadow beside me. You've become the shape my days are built around. Even in your absence, you define the spaces. Without you, I fear everything will collapse into something unrecognizable. This morning, as I folded laundry, I found a shirt I haven't worn since the day we spent at the lake. It's faded now, the fabric soft from too many washes. But the moment I touched it, I could smell the faint trace of sunscreen, of wind, of you. I held it longer than I should have, pressing it to my face, letting the ache rise in my chest until it was almost unbearable. Then I folded it carefully and put it back in the drawer, as if tucking the memory away would make it safer. I catch myself doing that often, preserving things. A ticket stub from a movie we saw, a dried leaf you picked up in the park because you said it looked like a heart. The last message you sent, saved on my phone, though I haven't opened it in months. They're small, fragile things, but they feel like proof. Proof that we existed, that I didn't imagine the way you once looked at me, like I was something rare. Sometimes I wonder if these keepsakes are anchors or chains, if they're holding me steady or holding me back. I think about throwing them away, starting fresh, clearing the space so something new can grow. But every time I reach for the drawer, something stops me. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's love, maybe it's the knowledge that once they're gone, the only place you'll live is in my memory. And memory is so easily altered by time. Last night, I dreamed of you. It wasn't one of those dreams where you're blurry, where your face is hidden. No, you were clear, as if you had just stepped out of the room and returned. We were sitting across from each other at a table by the window. Outside, the rain fell in silver threads, and you were smiling. Not the polite smile you gave to strangers, but the one that curled at the edges, soft and knowing. You reached for my hand, and I woke up just before your fingers touched mine. I lay there in the dark, my palm still tingling, trying to convince myself it wasn't real, but also not wanting to believe it wasn't. There's a kind of cruelty in how dreams give you what reality won't. They hand you the thing you've been aching for, let you hold it, feel it, breathe it, and then they take it away the moment you open your eyes. I spent the rest of the morning moving through the world like I was underwater, everything muted, everything too far away. I've started to notice that certain places no longer feel like they belong to me. Streets we walked, shops we visited, even the bench near the fountain where we once sat in the cold just to hear the water move. They feel like they're still yours, as if I'm only passing through, trespassing in memories that aren't mine alone. I wonder if you feel that too, if you avoid certain places because they carry my shape, my voice, my laughter, or maybe you've reclaimed them, filling them with someone else's presence until I'm nothing more than a faint shadow on the wall. Tonight, I'm writing with the window open. The air smells faintly of rain and something sweet I can't place. Somewhere down the street, someone is playing a piano, the notes drifting in and out of reach. It's not a song I know, but there's something in the way it moves that feels like you. Slow at first, then urgent, then quiet again, as if it can't decide what it wants to say. I sit here and let it wrap around me, imagining you are somewhere listening to it too. And for a moment, the distance between us feels smaller. I know that holding on to you like this is a kind of devotion, but it's also a kind of self-destruction. I'm building my life inside a room that no longer exists, and every time I try to step outside, the light feels wrong, the air too sharp. People tell me that grief has seasons, that eventually winter turns to spring. But no one tells you that some winters are endless, that they live quietly beneath every summer, ready to return at the first sign of loss. You were never just a chapter, you were the book. And maybe that's why I keep turning back to the beginning, over and over, reading until the pages are worn thin, afraid that if I stop, the story will disappear. I'm not ready for that. I don't know if I ever will be. There are nights when I feel the weight of you in every part of me, not in a way that's visible to anyone else, but in the heaviness of my hands, the slowness of my steps, the way my breath catches without warning. I think this is what it means to live with something you cannot let go of. It doesn't just stay in your mind, it settles into your body, your bones, your pulse. Today I woke up with that familiar ache behind my eyes, the kind that comes from dreams I can't remember but know were about you. The light through the curtains was soft, almost forgiving, and for a moment I thought about staying in bed all day, curling myself into the quiet. But the air felt too still, too heavy, so I got up and wandered the apartment like I was looking for something. Maybe I was. On the bookshelf, there's still that novel you lent me and never asked for back. The bookmark is where you left it, halfway through, a receipt from a corner shop tucked between the pages. I've never moved it. I've never finished the book. Sometimes I run my fingers along the spine, thinking I'll start it again from the beginning, but then I stop. It feels like reading it without you would be breaking some unspoken promise, like crossing a line into a place we were meant to enter together. The truth is, I've learned to live in fragments, pieces of days, stitched together by small rituals that keep you close. I still make tea the way you liked it, even though I drink it alone. I still keep the window open at night in early autumn, just to feel that same crisp air we once breathed side by side. I still pause at certain street corners, not because I need to, but because that's where we once stopped to talk about something I can't even remember now. It's not the conversation I'm holding on to. It's the way you looked at me while we stood there. There's a quiet beauty in this kind of remembering. It's fragile, like holding a glass ornament in your hands, knowing it could shatter, but choosing to keep it anyway. Some days it feels like the only thing that makes sense. In a world that moves too fast, too carelessly, you are the one constant. The one thing I refuse to let time wear down. But it's exhausting too. Carrying you everywhere means there's no place I can rest. Even in moments that should be light, there's a shadow stretching just out of sight. At dinner with friends, in the middle of laughter, I'll suddenly think of the way you used to rest your chin on your hand, eyes half focused, listening more than speaking. Walking through the city, I'll catch the scent of rain on stone and be pulled into a memory so vivid I have to stop where I am, just to breathe. I've stopped telling people about you, not because I don't want to, but because their faces change when I do. They think they're being kind when they say it's time to move on, or that you'd want me to be happy, but they don't understand. They think you were a chapter, something that could be closed with a neat ending and a deep breath. They never knew that you were the thread running through every page, the thing that made the whole story hold together. Without you, the pages scatter. Tonight, I lit a candle and turned off all the lights. The room is awash in gold, the shadows deep and soft at the edges. I'm sitting on the floor by the window, the cool glass against my back. Outside, the world is quiet, except for the occasional hum of a passing car. I close my eyes and pretend that this silence is the same one we once shared, the kind that didn't feel empty because you were in it. I've started to think that maybe love, the kind that doesn't fade, is less about holding on to the person and more about holding on to the way they made you see the world. You made the smallest things feel like miracles. A stray beam of light across a dusty room, the sound of rain on a tin roof, the way the air smells before snow. I still see those things through the lens you gave me. And maybe that's why I can't let go. Losing you would mean losing that way of seeing, and I'm not ready to go back to a world without it. But there's a cost to this kind of devotion. It keeps me tethered to something that can't return. It leaves me standing still while life moves around me, as if I'm in a photograph and everyone else is walking past. Some nights, I can feel the edges of my own life blur, as if I'm becoming nothing more than a reflection of what used to be. And yet, even knowing this, I stay. I choose to stay. Because you were never just a chapter. You were the book. And if my story has to end here, in the middle of our unfinished sentence, then maybe that's enough. Maybe living in this one part forever is better than closing it and finding the pages beyond are blank. I don't know when I started measuring time by the distance from the last time I saw you. It's not a calendar anyone else can read, but for me, the days fall into two categories: before you left and after. Everything in between feels blurred, as if the world lost its sharpness when you walked away. Tonight is one of those nights when the hours feel longer than they should. The air is still, and the only sound is the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I'm sitting at the table with a cup of tea gone cold, staring at the steam that isn't there anymore. Sometimes I wonder if this is what grief does. It freezes you in moments that never really happened, moments you invent because the real ones aren't enough to keep you warm. I've been thinking about the last time you touched me, not the goodbye, not the moment when everything was breaking, but the last touch that felt ordinary. It was a Tuesday. We were walking home from somewhere, I can't remember where, and you reached over to brush something off my shoulder. Your fingers lingered for half a second longer than necessary, and I smiled without meaning to. I didn't know then that I would replay that small gesture more times than I could count, that I would hold on to it like a photograph, edges worn from being taken out too often. People talk about closure as if it's a door you can close and lock. But there is no door here. There's just a hallway that stretches on forever, lined with memories I can't stop touching. Each one is a frame on the wall, and I walk past them every day, tracing the glass, feeling the edges, afraid that if I don't, they'll disappear. I've tried to imagine what my life would look like without you in it, not just physically, but without your voice echoing through it. It's impossible. You're woven into everything, into the way I fold my laundry, the way I hum under my breath, the way I look for meaning in small things. I think that's why it hurts so much. You're not something I can put away. You're in the fabric. Sometimes I tell myself I should be grateful to have known you, to have been loved by you, to have shared the kind of connection that leaves an imprint too deep to fade. And I am. But gratitude and longing can live in the same place. They sit side by side in my chest, one whispering that I should let go, the other begging me to hold on. There's a stack of letters in the drawer beside my bed, all written to you, none sent. Some are only a few lines, others stretch for pages. They're not meant to be read by anyone else. They're just a place to put the things I can't say out loud. Tonight I added another one. I didn't write about the past this time. I wrote about today, about the way the sky looked just before the sun went down, that pale gold fading into blue, the air cool enough to make me pull my sweater tighter. I wrote about how it made me think of the day we sat on the steps outside the library. watching the light change, neither of us wanting to move. You didn't say much that day. You didn't have to. I keep telling myself I'll stop writing when I have nothing left to say. But I think I'll always have something, even if it's just a line about the weather, or the sound of rain, or the way my tea tastes different without you across from me. It's not that I believe you'll read them, it's that writing them makes me feel like you're still here, somewhere, listening. The candle beside me has burned low. The shadows in the room have grown long and soft, reaching into the corners. Outside, the street is empty. The world feels paused, like it's holding its breath for something that will never happen. I find myself tracing the rim of my cup with my finger, the way I used to trace the curve of your hand. You were never just a chapter, you were the book. Every sentence, every pause, every unfinished thought. And maybe my life will go on to hold other pages, other words, but they will all be written in the language you taught me. They will all carry the rhythm of your voice, the weight of your presence, the space your absence has left behind. So tonight, I won't pretend to close this story. I won't write an ending that isn't true. I'll leave the last page open, the ink still wet, your name still resting there like a promise I'm not ready to break. And if that means I'll spend the rest of my life living in the middle of this book, then so be it. Because some stories aren't meant to be finished. They're meant to be carried, and I will carry you.